Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk to you about the Spanish-American War.
The Spanish-American War, Johnny, and I'm decked out in my appropriate Spaniam kit here with
I do have to say the look has improved.
A little bit.
The previous war.
I'm going to go ahead and stand up so the people at home who are watching on YouTube can see. I'm also wearing a nice little shoulder rig.
So he's got the yellow. Are those yellow or is it just the camera?
They're like yellow canvas pants, yeah.
So a yellow canvas pant, nice little holster there with his what was that at 18?
The pistol's in 1892, New Army, Colt New Army, and the rifle you notice has changed to the period correct 1898 Krag Jorgensen.
Okay, so are these what they were wearing and bringing into battle then?
Well,
some of them
is what the best troops should have had.
Ah, gotcha.
But we'll get there, Johnny.
So ideally, gotcha.
Ideally, the sidearm should have been a Colt New Army, and the rifle should have been a Krag.
Gotcha.
Although that's not exactly how everything turned out.
I mean, I've been noticing a recurring theme with early American wars, and it's being underprepared,
horribly ill-equipped and ill-prepared.
Ill-equipped, I think might be the best way of putting it.
And this war is very much that. Although if you did get the best, you did get a smokeless 5-round magazine rifle. So I mean, you are in the modern scopes here. So that
good-looking gun too.
Yeah, it's not a bad gun. I like it. So the Spanish-American War, I guarantee you, everybody at home has no idea what it was because I mean, if you even learn about it in school, it is glossed over so damn fast.
Well, I mean, basically, I learned that it happened.
Yeah, you learned that it happened.
That we had a Spanish-American War, and when did the war happen?
So the war would start in April 1898. I'm not going to give an exact specific date because there's several declarations of war that happen and several times that it kind of gets into, and we'll get there when we talk about it a little bit longer here. And it goes all the way to August 13th, 1898. This is the shortest officially declared war I think that we've ever had at a whole whopping 10 weeks.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say it, so it lasted from the late 19th into the early 20th century, but no,
nope.
Late 19th,
10 weeks.
10
weeks into 1898.
Okay.
And I'm spoiler alert, we kicked the Spaniards' asses.
Hey,
USA.
Isn't that what our whole like Iraq war was supposed to be? Wasn't it supposed to be like that duration and that type of?
Yeah, and then like 20 years later, we're still.
What are you gonna do? They have a lot of oil.
Just to clarify here, I'm the war, even though it's only 10 weeks, lots of things happen in that time period. So obviously I'm not going to go into specific details of every little specific battle and every little thing that happened. I'm going to give you kind of an overview, but a guaranteed better overview than you ever had in the history class.
Guaranteed to learn something.
Very much so.
If your only knowledge of it is the American education system.
Yes. It is the start of the United States Empire. It is the official end of the Spanish Empire, and it was a time when we were filled with nationalism. It's probably the start, actually, of the whole USA.
Yeah, that never really went away. Like it wasn't. Yeah. Turns out it wasn't a phase.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a phase. It kept going, and we're still there. So to kind of give you an overview of what happens, we got to start with the Revolution La Cuba. So down in Cuba,
where they make the cigars.
There's some cigars going on, and there's some people who are not so happy at Spain. Cuba and the Philippines are the last two vestiges of the once great Spanish Empire. Think about the pirates time. Your Captain Jack Sparrow when Spain ruled the seas.
Yeah, So this is left over from when they initially just basically inhabited all of Central America and Southern North America. They brought the horses and everything, and they maintained that. And then this is kind of the
This is way after
crumbled
that.
endings
This
of that greatness.
exactly.
So they have Cuba
Yeah, they have Cuba and the
and
Philippines,
the Philippines. Okay.
and that's pretty much it. The Cubans at this time are just off their first real serious bid of independence, which was the 10-year war from 1868 to 1878, where the Cubans legitimately fought against the Spanish to say, hey, look, we want our independence.
Yeah. So that's how you name a war. That was a 10-year war, and it went from 1968 to 1978. That's 10 years.
That's 10 years.
We have what's that war that we fought that like is like a some number year war that
The War of 1812 that
that
wasn't in 1812.
yeah, maybe that might be the one I'm thinking of. I
That's
don't
the
know.
I get for
Okay.
U.S. That's the one you're thinking of. Is the
Okay,
War of
yeah.
1812
That's
because
just
yeah,
not in 1812. Yeah.
yeah.
Very confusing.
All the fighting I think happens in like 1815.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Well,
Anyway,
yeah.
well done naming this war though.
This one was
And so
named
that
well.
and so
The Spanish they did win, and as far as victories go, they like to exile a bunch of people. So now we have some Cuban revolutionaries that are floating around, including a couple in the United States.
so Spanish won, so they maintained control, and then they took all the big names of the revolution and just
Kicked them out.
kicked them out, sent them to the
Right?
ocean.
They didn't kill them. They didn't imprison them. They're just like, you can't be here
It's
anymore.
just this is
Where
not your space.
they went to different countries and still were like, yeah, we want to go back, and Cuba needs to be free. So this whole compromise lasted not that long, because we get into Cuban exile Jose Marti, who continued to promote Cuban financial independence and encouraged a new revolt by a group from Santo Domingo under Jose Marti himself. He also had a group from Costa Rica underneath Antonio Maceo Rojales, and a third group in the United States that he encouraged to invade Cuba in 1895. Although that one, the federal government found out about it, and the U.S. is like, look,
No, thank you.
no, you got no. No, you're not allowed
Bad
to go.
revolutionary.
You're not allowed to start, so don't do it.
Okay, well, I'm starting to see why this was the end of the Spanish Empire. Had they just beheaded all of these people who fought against them, they would have saved themselves a lot of trouble, which is
Well,
kind of what they used to do
well,
back when
Johnny.
things were going well for them.
Spoiler alert.
Uh-oh.
So in the spring of 1895, the invasion does land, does launch off. So the ex Jose Marti does his invasion of Cuba, creates guerrilla fighting in Cuba, and a bunch of Cuban citizens are rising up against Spain.
Yeah.
And Spain doesn't like this. They're like, look, listen,
You don't say.
we gave you a shot. You lost the war for independence. We kindly asked you to leave. We didn't think you'd come back.
Yeah.
And we didn't think you'd start a tiff.
Yeah. Who would have thought that people fighting for independence would still want independence even after they lost?
Right.
What a weird thing.
So in response, Spain puts General Valeriano Weyler in charge of quelling this rebellion. So it's always good when there's a social situation to go on to send in military
That's the first thing you do.
Or overtly militarized police to control the situation.
Well, when your police are the military, it's the same thing. So
even better, right? So Weyler's brilliant idea is concentration camps, Johnny.
Oh, how about that? Those are I guess
never go bad.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he did not have the next 50 years to, look. He can't look into the future. This was before all of Hitler's concentration camps and that whole thing.
Fair point, but I'll give you a heads up. Concentration camps they're not great.
Not gonna end up well. Okay.
Do you think he puts the revolutionaries in these concentration camps that he catches, or
that would make sense, right?
maybe the people that are actually like picking up arms and fighting against you?
Yeah, you take the enemy and you put them in the camps.
No, you just take all the Cuban citizens and you put them in the camps.
Like just the people that had already
Just the
been living
people,
there,
just the Cuban people. Yeah,
just
yeah.
that are just hanging out,
Because
living their lives.
to be fair, there is a large Spanish demographic that's living in Cuba. There's actually a large European demographic that lives in Cuba. There's a large American demographic that lives in Cuba at this time because Cuba is full of really cheap sugar,
Yep.
and we like really cheap sugar.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
yeah, he puts them in. He puts these guys in the concentration camps.
So
By
is
18,
this because citizens were like joining in part of the guerrilla warfare? Was that his
I'm
angle
sure that's
on
his
it?
logic. Is like, well, I can't distinguish one Cuban from the next, so
Yeah,
you all are
exactly.
going in the
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah. Okay.
By 1898, a third of the Cuban population was in these camps. And Johnny, these camps, they don't have enough food.
They
They don't have
never
enough
do.
water.
They never do. That I mean
They
that's
are
always
put
the
right
problem.
next to military encampments where, I'm sure the military personnel are so happy that they have to watch them.
Oh yeah.
So as a
And
result,
I'm guessing no mistreatment of the
well,
prisoners in the concentration camp occurred.
it is estimated that 400,000 Cubans were killed in said camps. So
So if you just don't get to 500,000, we don't bother teaching it in American schools.
as a genocide, because
Yeah.
this is legitimately this is a Cuban genocide. Like this,
Yeah.
like the Spaniards went in and just offed.
I mean, because what's the population of Cuba?
I didn't look it
Couldn't
up and I
find it.
don't know, but you'd imagine that has to be, well, a third of them were in camps and
Right.
400,000 were killed. So I mean, you'd imagine that that's probably
So
a good chunk of the population.
that's probably 10, 15, 20%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say at least
I mean,
10%.
and as of
Yeah,
the Cuban
if not,
population,
yeah, of
because
the Cuban
it was
population. Yeah.
concentrated to the Cuban population and not. I mean, so you could take the Spanish and the other Europeans and the American populations. That's insane.
Now, we've been talking here for the last 10 minutes about Cuba and their revolt and all that fun stuff that's going on. And you might be sitting there thinking to yourself at home, what the hell does this have to do with the United States?
Oh yeah, I forgot that's what we started
Yeah,
on.
yeah. We're here somewhere, right? Well, Johnny, in 1923, there was a thing called the Monroe Doctrine, which we put in, where we as Americans decided that we would no longer tolerate European intervention into the Americas because clearly the United States means all of the North America, South America,
I
the
mean,
islands off of North
we're
America.
kind of like the oldest brother in a gigantic family where that
Yeah, and you're
that's who
picking,
makes the
and we
rules
don't.
and helps. We
Yeah,
take care of everything. You don't need to come in here. We don't need you to babysit us or help us out. We can take care of our kids. That type of
so
thing.
we don't like them dirty Spanish in our waters, let alone the fact that these Spanish were here way before we were, and fuck the natives that we killed. But hey, listen, we don't want any Europeans in here messing with our people.
I mean, Tom, did you miss the little bit where God gave us this country? Did you?
He
I
did.
mean,
The manifest destiny,
yeah.
Johnny. He sure did give it to us.
It seems to me like you're forgetting about that.
It also doesn't help that we were, really, really interested in that devalued sugar in Cuba.
So that's probably
Could,
I mean, yeah. So the
our businesses
1923
were
thing,
really
but
doing well.
the 1923 thing did that stem from this
No,
or
that was just something that it was partly this, but it was basically like we didn't want any more European settlers to take the land that we so hard fought for because we were here first or
was that
second,
19 or
fifth,
1823?
1823,
Okay,
1823.
that's where I got confused because I'm like, that's after this happened. Okay,
No,
so
no, 1823,
1823.
1823.
And now the
We were
Spanish was coming into the Americas. We're like, all
so
right, guys,
what it really boils down to though is
that's our sugar and gold.
well, and it was so much of our sugar that actually the U.S. accounted for 90% of Cuban exports.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, all right.
And we accounted for 40% of their imports. So,
Oh my God. So yeah,
needless to
pretty
say,
good
what it really
relationship with
boils
the U.S.
what it boils down
financially and
to is
economically.
this is money. And when there's a revolt going on, that tends to hurt our money. So
Yeah,
we,
well, yeah, I mean that's going to start canceling shipments and puts embargoes on things, and supplies go elsewhere. We can't
yeah, we
have
don't
that.
like that too much. Although at this point in 1895, the business was not for war. They want, because they're just out of a recession. We just fought the Civil War. We're kind of poor. We're trying to recoup. We don't really want a war. It'll cost us more money than it's worth at this point. So in
Right.
1895,
For now.
we're concerned about the revolution because it's costing us sugar money, but we're not ready to go to war yet.
Okay.
yet. So enter what we call yellow journalism, Johnny. And yellow journalism is basically sensationalist journalism, or what we call the modern day media, just normal
Right.
media
Yeah.
nowadays. We
Just
overhype everything, we
choose your
over exaggerate
propaganda.
everything. It's propaganda. Sure is. Two journalists were the worst at this: a Joseph Pulitzer from New York World and a
Wait,
William Randolph Hearst from New York Journal. So two newspapers.
Pulitzer of the Pulitzer Prize?
I think so, but I'm not entirely sure. Like, don't quote me on that. I'm gonna go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah,
Tell me all
sure.
about him.
He's that Pulitzer guy,
I mean, how many people are named Pulitzer
right?
in journalism?
But these two guys, what they love doing is they love stirring up shit. They love selling newspapers by stirring up shit. These are the guys that from way back in the Washington Post with the whole putting penis for the Lorena Bobbitt thing. These
Okay,
are
yeah.
these guys. They
Yeah,
like the sensational, the clickbait.
early clickbait.
Early clickbait. But they hate each other even more. So this leads to them like really competing with each other in New York
Is it just
over
two
who can get the most
egos fighting
ridiculous.
over big leads and stuff? That's why they hate each other?
Yeah, pretty much. So obviously, when they hear about the Cuban concentration camps and they hear about the horrible atrocities, that's not sensational.
Right,
They
right.
were definitely atrocities, but they blow this up to try to get media stir crazy, the population stir crazy about anti-Spanish sentiment.
Which is kind of crazy because maybe in a situation like this, just report the facts because they're probably enough.
The facts were good enough.
Like,
Yeah,
like I get
they
it sometimes
definitely.
when like something little happens, or like, oh, this little boy fell down a well or whatever and got recovered, and they turn it into like this whole thing. They give his backstory and all that, and like he was down there and he could have died if this thing happened or whatever. But when you have concentration camps and like people being murdered and genocide and stuff, that's enough.
Yeah, you don't really have to go into any more details.
Don't
It's good.
embellish.
So it gets the American fever up. They start making direct comparisons between our revolution and the Cuban Revolution. And so the American people are now on board. We're okay with going to war with Spain because we want these Cubans to have their independence.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go help another little guy. We were the little guy.
So in your old timey America, you needed three things to really go to war. You needed the people on your side, you needed business on your side,
okay,
and you needed the El Presidente to be on your side.
Yeah, so people, production, and government support.
Government, yep. So we've got the people that are now on our side.
Right, they're all mad.
But we still need business and we still need the president. So by 1897, the revolt is full well going on.
Yeah.
Business at this point is like, look, this shit was supposed to end like years ago.
Yeah, our sugar prices are starting to go up a little bit. Things are getting more
expensive. Put some
expensive.
concentration camps in. We're not like, shit's not ending.
Right.
So the business is now going up to El Presidente and saying, look, something needs to be done. Our guys that are working the sugar plantations, they're being put in camps. I'm not going down there. I know you're not going to go down there and work the farms. We're too light-skinned for that. So
yeah.
So you need to do something so we can get these guys back to work. Enter William McKinley, the new president who was elected in 1897. Kind of gets in at a wrong time. He gets elected at a time where
the fire, huh?
Yeah, shit's going on already. He himself was anti-war, but he wants to appease the American people and appease business. So he starts to negotiate.
As president and as a leader, if everybody comes to you saying they want something done, that's your job as an elected official. Like, you're a representative of the people. So there you go.
So he goes down to, he starts sending peace negotiations down to Cuba to try to get something worked out between the revolutionaries and Spain. And negotiations start to go a little bit sideways when, Johnny, I shit you not, that the ambassador in Spain at Cuba makes fun of William McKinley and basically calls him pompous and stupid and like he just says like, you're useless, like we don't care about you.
Just roasts him.
So he roasts him, and because he gets roasted, William McKinley's like, the hell with that, and sends the U.S.S. Maine down to Cuba to protect American interests in Cuba, aka we want to make sure our plantations are still producing.
Yeah.
So the Maine, Johnny, does that ring a bell? The U.S.S. Maine?
I've heard that. Yeah. Okay, I didn't know if it was just because I know the state or.
Well, yeah, maybe, but well, Johnny, the U.S.S. Maine is a warship. It is a modern steam-powered warship, nice iron sides. We learned a lot
Nice.
about naval battles during the Civil War. So, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But it's a great ship. Except, Johnny, it does have one slight flaw in that it is a steam-powered ship that whomever
Sure.
built it decided we'll put the magazines, so all where the gunpowder and ammunition is stored, on the same wall as the boiler room. So boilers get
Oh.
really hot.
Oh no.
You probably don't want a really hot wall that's touching your ammunition and gunpowder.
Why? Why? Why would that be? Is that
Could it potentially maybe go boom boom?
maybe?
Well, Johnny, on February
Did we find
15th,
out why?
February 15th,
Oh,
1898 at 9:40 p.m., the Maine explodes.
as it is wont to do when you pile explosives next to fire.
Yeah, it kills 250 of the sailors. Out
Bum
of, I think it was
City.
355 on board, so most of them die.
Yeah, well, I
Uh,
imagine a lot of that in the initial explosion,
yeah,
and then a
probably.
lot more drowning afterwards.
I mean, the
Did it
whole
sink it?
magazine, it's sunk.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole magazine goes up. So like that's every bit of ammunition powder on that boat is
Yeah,
gone. Well, instantly, Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst blame the Spanish in their yellow journalism.
that's right.
But Johnny, they put question marks at the end of everything they say, so that way they're not really saying the Spanish did it. It's the Spanish did it.
They're just asking. They're just asking the question.
They're asking the
They're not
questions.
telling you how to think. They're just asking if you'd like to.
Yep. Some of my favorite newspaper, because I dug up some newspapers at the time. Some of my favorite ones were "Crisis is at hand. Spanish treachery.
Maybe. Hard to say.
Fear the Spain may declare war."
They may.
They
I
may.
mean, you never know what they're going to do unless you're them.
Bloodthirsty Spanish blow up the Maine.
Did that have a question mark?
It had a question mark at the end.
So it could have been the bloodthirsty Spanish, but it also could have been just the regular Spanish.
They
don't
even
know.
offered a reward of $50,000 to proof to whom blew up the Maine, and this was underneath the Maine article that was titled "Destruction of the Warship Maine was the work of the enemy."
So did somebody just like capture the architect of the boat or whatever that would be, whatever that boat maker is, and turn him in for the $50,000?
No, this is actually debated. It was debated all the way up until basically modern times about what was the real cause of the Maine blowing up.
Yeah.
So the U.S. military does their own investigation, and they come to the conclusion that the ammunition, the magazine room blew up.
Yeah.
From underneath the boat from an outside source.
So one of their U-boats that they had in.
Well, I think they were suggesting mines, but yes.
Okay, there you go. Not a torpedo.
So, well, this led to the great battle cry, "Remember the Maine, to hell with Spain." So now you got business.
I mean, now you have a battle cry. So that's all. I mean, really, when you have one that good, it's wartime, baby.
It's wartime. You got the people on board. You got big business on board. The
Spanish people and
the businesses and the churches that were anti-war up to this point, after all this sediment, were now like changing sides.
Yeah.
So you
like,
get
if they're gonna, as soon as it's like Pearl Harbor, as soon as someone attacks, it's like, all right, well, fuck everybody, let's go get them.
So by April 11th, McKinley's sitting in Congress, and he's like one of the only ones in the government that's like not ready to blow shit up.
Not thrilled about it.
So at this point, he's like, well, fuck it. Ask Congress on April 11th to declare or to give him military authority to send some troops down to Cuba to calm some things down a little bit.
Okay. Which is like it's like foreplay to war.
It's foreplay to war. That's why I didn't want to give a specific date, because there's our declaration, there's when we send troops down, there's when Cuba declares war, or not Cuba, Spain declares war on us. So there's a couple of dates going on here. But while debating all of these things, we do have a senator who's wise and smart and comes up. His name is Henry Teller, and he suggests that maybe if we do go to war, we should put a little caveat there that we will not make Cuba a state. We will not make them a territory. We won't make them a state. This is about getting their independence.
Hey, quit picking on them.
Wink,
all right, fine.
wink,
we'll stop
wink.
We'll stop being over them and everything.
Yeah. So the Teller Amendment does pass on the 19th, saying that we will go to war.
Yeah.
Or we will send military troops, but under no circumstances will we make Cuba a state.
Okay.
Wink. And that gets passed on the 19th. And on the 20th, Congress gave McKinley the go-ahead to send a military and a joint resolution to Spain to try to get something worked out. So we send a ultimatum to Spain that says, get the hell out of Cuba, or guys like this are coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I mean, that's intimidating.
Yeah, right? Well, it's better than the Civil War uniform.
Oh, I'm telling you, they're improving. They're looking better and better. This might be one of my favorite kits you have.
So far? Well, we haven't gotten to the World War II kit. We'll get there when we talk about World War II at some point.
As far as just fashionability goes.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I like it.
I mean, you could show up to a saloon after going to battle and like not look out of place.
I do wear these pants for my for my Western attire because they're appropriate.
They're good looking pants.
Well, on the 21st, Johnny, Spain says, yeah, fuck that, and severs diplomatic ties with the United States. So that's the precursor to war.
Yeah,
at this point,
all right, you guys want to do this? Fine, let's do.
They're getting all their embassies shut down in U.S. territories. They're getting pulled out. And 2 days later, on the 23rd, Spain declares war on the United States. 2 days after that, on the 25th, the United States says, okay, gloves off, motherfuckers.
War it is.
Yeah, now we're here. So I've got 2 points about U.S. and Spain at this time to kind of give you a context of why the war goes the way it goes and how things happen.
Okay.
So first, Spain is extremely, extremely poor. Their navy is horribly, horribly outdated. They still, in some cases, have wood-powered steamboats, not ironclad wood.
Warships. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are not ready for a naval war. The United States, on the other hand, we don't have any enemies that are close to us. So one reason why the U.S. never had a large army in the beginning of our life is that we had no need.
Yeah, where are they going to go?
Canadians are friendly. We don't really ever have to mess with them. And Mexico, they're like that crazy neighbor, but they're a crazy neighbor that comes at you with a hammer.
You just learn how to deal with them.
But just like sidestep a little bit. Like
you learn how to deal with it, how to talk to them, put up with them, and put them back in their place. But all right, we hear you. Now settle down. They can't
really do anything to us.
Right, yeah.
We kind of proved that when we went to war with them in 1840s.
Yeah.
So we've not had a reason to have a standing army. So our interests have always been in the Navy because, well, if there is going to be a threat, it's going to come from the water. So as long as we have a strong Navy to defend our coast, we don't need an army. So our Navy has always been, well, not always, but at this time is a very strong, modern Navy. A lot of that's done because of Theodore Roosevelt, who is the Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Navy, ensured that we had a modern military. Or modern Navy. We also learned from the Civil War that ironclads are really, really awesome. Apparently, when you put some iron on the side of a wooden boat, it makes most cannons not puncture your iron sides.
Yeah, I mean, you already have big, thick bracing from the wood that is the boat, and then you slap on probably inch-thick iron or something like that.
And you're good. And you're good to go.
And what's going to go through it?
My favorite U.S. naval battle during the Civil War was the battle against the ironclads, the U.S.S. Monitor and the Merrimack or some shit like that. It doesn't matter. But these two guys fought all damn day long, and nobody died. They damaged.
They just pulled up next to each other and just bounced balls off the side.
Exactly. So we have a modern Navy that is very heavily armored,
So we're pretty
very
well
good
equipped for
guns,
this.
going up against guys in rowboats.
Yeah.
On the inverse of that, the Spanish military, the army, was well equipped. They were working with the Germans,
Yeah.
and they had Spanish Mausers, which were probably at that time the best rifle you could have got. They have Maxim machine guns.
Oh.
They have modern artillery.
How do those do up against that ironclads?
Well, I mean, not great because
Like,
they're not in the Navy; they're on ground.
yeah, so
But
they just pull up next to them and just start firing. Because I mean, how big is Cuba? It's an island, right? Just
yeah,
surround it.
the U.S. Army at this time, 25,000 strong in total
Oh boy,
at the
that's
start.
like
The entire army,
that.
25,000.
That would be a small number of people to send into a battle.
Very much.
Like,
This guy here is brand new. We just had our trials to approve this gun. So there are a crap ton of soldiers that are walking around with what are called trapdoors, which is a single shot black powder musket that's been modified to shoot a modern day cartridge. So
yikes.
like my old gun, you have a trapdoor, you flip it up, you put a black powder cartridge in, you close it up, you get one shot. Boom.
So it's like a bolt. It's like a single shot bolt action for the powder shot. Okay, nice.
So that's what we have to start with.
And so these just got approved, and of course distribution was not, and production was not up to where it needed to be yet.
Yeah. And we also have this thing in the U.S. for whatever reason where we like states' rights, and we allow state militias to have their own uniforms, their own equipment, and kind of be responsible for that. So you have a lot of weird mishmash of trapdoors, of Craigs, of blue pants versus these khaki pants. You have web belts with cartridge belts. Some of them are 50 rounds, some of them are 100 rounds, some of them are blue, some of them are tan.
So it's just up to whoever decided to outfit their militia.
Yeah, it is a mash of random different outfits, random different equipment that the military now has to figure out, sort out, and get these guys some stuff. When we start to look like war was going to be amping up, so late 1897, early 1898, there is a call for 50,000 volunteers, and McKinley receives 220,000.
Oh,
because people are bored and they want something to do, and all the state militias are mobilized.
They're bored and mad too,
including Theodore Roosevelt, who resigns his position as Assistant Secretary of the Navy, the second highest position you can get in the Navy. He resigns that position to help form the first U.S. Volunteer Cavalry, or the Rough Riders, is what they're.
So he's just like, hell no, pal. I want to go fight.
He goes, I want to go. I want to get in that mud and get in that dirt. And I want to go shoot some shit.
So these are the Rough Riders, then the originals.
These are the original Rough Riders. Yeah, that's where the name comes from.
Not to be confused with DMX's Rough Riders.
Yeah, no, different guys. Different guys there. So, well, I'm going to break the war. War's now declared. We have our 220,000 man army. We've got our Navy that's impeccable. Let's go to war, Johnny.
Let's do it.
So we start to fight for Cuban independence immediately on the other side of the world in the Pacific at the Philippines.
Perfect. That's how you do it. That's how you do war, Tom.
Yeah.
I think if you
open up two fronts and
you're like, hey, everybody's here and they're concentrating on this. We're just going to go start fighting in this other area that we were interested in.
Yeah. First shots of the war kick off in Manila Bay on May 1st, where the U.S. modern ships thoroughly trounced the Spanish squadron in 4 hours with, hold on, Johnny, only 9 U.S. casualties.
I mean, I think it's great that we only had 9 U.S. casualties. Do you think that as these people were dying, they were a little embarrassed that they were one of the 9 to die during this? Like, it comes to a point where you have so few that it's almost like, oh, well, maybe
it's like you gotta feel like shit if you're the last guy to die in a war too. Like, I always think about that. Like, well, we had 9, Johnny. That was it. The U.S. fleet in the Pacific at this time, actually, I have to mention this, had no base of its own. We were the only European fleet that's floating around the Pacific with no base of operations, which makes this victory even more ridiculous. Because not only did we not have a base, that means we had no place to restore ammunition, no place to restock coal for the
Yeah.
the steam engines,
So they're
nothing.
just floating
So
around
we
there.
just tied it off, from California.
So hey guys, we're here.
Hey guys, we're here.
And now you're not.
Destroyed the Spanish fleet in Manila, and then we took over the Manila port, the port of Manila. Ours now. We now have our first port in the
Hey.
Pacific.
Well, that's how you get a base.
That's how you get one.
That's the American way. You go and take
Why
it.
build one? We'll just take it.
Yeah, like that's what we've been doing since we came to this country. Oh,
Pretty
what a
much.
beautiful city you have here. It's ours now. We'll take these houses and stuff.
It's ours. We want it. You don't need it.
Except
It's
for
ours.
these, we're gonna burn these down. But anyway.
Yeah, we'll burn those ones. Well, it immediately attracted attention from Britain's, Japan, France, and German fleets, which flooded the Manila harbor for trade and, of course, to protect their own interest in Manila because, again, these little colonial areas, they're really just shithole islands that we exploit all the resources out of.
I mean, yeah, it's where you go to. It's the resource-rich areas that you keep poor in order to maintain the labor to extract the resources, and then you take it and you bring it back to your rich country.
But I can't emphasize this enough. This was almost a world war because, like I said earlier, Germany was helping Spain out with increasing their military and modernizing their military. And well, the Germans when they came over to Manila, they did not salute the American fleet, which is custom in peacetime. They just floated on by and went, screw the Americans. And not only did they land in Manila, they instantly dumped supplies, equipment, and weapons to the Spanish that were still there to equip them for war. So this really could have been a world war.
So why did nothing come from that? We just let it slide off our back, or
I mean,
we're just like we kind of don't want. We kind of only wanted the Philippines and Cuba. Can we not get involved with Germany here? Maybe.
Yeah, and I think at this time Americans were smart enough to not make a big deal out of it because we're like, look, we might be good enough to kick the Spanish.
Yeah, there's a lot more people coming around.
A little different. Like their navy is modern, so maybe
they fight different.
It's fine. We'll let them come.
Yeah.
And really, it's not like the Germans were friends with the Spanish. They wanted money. It was all a
right.
business.
Yeah,
and business.
So we're just like, all right, we'll just keep it all business as business.
Pretty much. After securing Manila, the Americans brought over the exiled Filipino revolutionary Emilio Aguinaldo, probably butchered that name, who declared instantly that Philippines were now independent.
Oh.
That'll last.
Well, how about that? I mean, there you go. You win.
You won.
It's like when Michael Scott declares bankruptcy in The Office. He just steps out. I declare bankruptcy. Well, it's not how that works, but all right.
Sure, that's fine. So Spain would respond by sending a fleet to the Philippines. So they're like, look, they managed to grab all the fleets that they had in Spain, and they were like, we're
going to row our boats over there. Watch out.
We're going to row our boats over to the Philippines.
Is that where row your boat originated?
I'm going to go ahead and say yes. That's exactly where everyone came from. Well, Johnny, the Americans responded in turn by capturing Guam on June 20th. And by capturing Guam, I mean they showed up.
What did Guam have to do? What's Guam doing in this?
Guam's still it's a Spanish colony.
It's just close and
it's
Spanish.
Close. It's a Spanish colony. It's close.
Like, all right, we'll take this one then.
And again, by capture, I mean we showed up.
Right. Yeah, we just said it's ours now.
Well, we showed up, and we went to out front of the main Spanish fort that's in Guam, and we fired off a warning shot.
Yeah.
And we heard nothing. Crickets. Now, in normal peacetime, for countries that are at peace, when you pass each other, you fire a salute. Each boat fires once, not at each other, but fires off around.
So you
salute.
I see.
So the Spanish governor of Guam thought this was a peaceful thing. So he gets in his little dinghy, and he rows out to the American fleet. He gets up there and says, "Listen, I know we're at peace. I want to acknowledge said peace, but we don't actually have any ammunition or gunpowder for our cannons. So I'm sorry, I can't acknowledge. What's this? We're at war?
I love the idea of him.
Can you ignore the fact that I said that we don't
I
have
love
any
the idea of
defenses?
him thinking a salute's coming. Just be like, "Oh God, we have nothing to salute them with." I know. I'll go explain it to him. It's fine. And he's worried the whole time way over, rowing his boat and everything. And then he finally gets there and explains it to him. It's like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna die now." That's great.
Oh, we're at war. Okay, you know what? I already said we don't have any ammunition, so USA.
So
So
who are we fighting now? Okay.
So Guam is
We're on your
taken.
side.
Guam is taken with only a single warning shot
That's
and no
beautiful.
casualties. Just show up. It's ours now, which again tells you how poorly equipped the Spanish Empire was at this time that they don't even have ammunition for one of their forts.
Yeah. Do you think they had like got their supply and they got bored and just like used it all for target practice? And they're like, guys, we can't keep telling them that we need more ammunition. We're gonna get in trouble. And then that's why they didn't have it. And then they got captured because they didn't have the ammunition.
Yeah. Well, that ends the Pacific front.
Well, that was easy.
That easy.
All
we
right.
win. So now onto the Caribbean front or the Cuban front. So on June 22nd, the first American troops would land east of Santiago, Cuba, at Guantanamo Bay.
Hey, I've heard familiar.
Of that. Yeah, Guantanamo, Gitmo. Well, Johnny, it'll come back around. We set up a base of operations at Gitmo, and it is, Johnny, that's the same Guantanamo Bay that you're thinking of. It's the same Gitmo that you're thinking of. Yeah, same base.
Is this when we set up the prison and everything there, or
that comes later? A little bit later, but yeah, we'll get there. We set up our base of operations and we start to do our fight inland, but it's kind of slow because the Spanish are actually well equipped and they're good at defensive tactics. So we're not making a shit ton of progress right now.
Yeah, because again, when all you have to do is hold an area, it's not that hard.
Pretty easy to do that for the most part. Ground forces of the main landing force would get there on July 1st, 15,000 men. So again, of all these, we didn't really commit that many into Cuba itself. So these 15,000 men would land and they would push inward and start fighting at San Juan Hill on July 1st. This is the same group of people that contains Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders. So Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders are at the bottom of San Juan Hill on July 1st, and they said, we're going to take that hill.
So battle tactics at this time, is this like is it guerrilla type warfare on the just because of the infrastructure? Are they marching or what?
So this is at San Juan Hill. It is a hybrid of sort of like Civil War tactics where we kind of have line formation still, but trench warfare. So this is like early. Think of War. Yeah, think of early World War I, but with not as many machine guns.
Okay.
So San Juan Hill is the most famous battle of the Spanish-American War. It's the biggest battle of the Spanish-American War for the most part. It's the famous one. And it is a clusterfuck for the Americans. We are left at the bottom of the hill, supposed to be getting support and artillery support that's not really necessarily coming. The U.S. commander is this fat, aging, obese guy who has no idea what the hell he's doing, a veteran of the Civil War, who, by the way, is stricken with malaria and can't actually give any commands. So eventually, instead of just sitting at the bottom of the hill getting shot to shit by the better, artillery from the Spanish,
right?
They decide, let's go, let's take it. So we do. We push up the hill.
We'll just play
Teddy Roosevelt,
the hill, or King of the
Teddy
Hill.
Teddy Roosevelt's at the head of it. He's running with this guy. Teddy is such a glory hog. The guy he brought a saber with him.
I mean, you command without a saber, Tom. Good luck.
Oh, and I forgot. I got to jump back here real quick to also tell you how ridiculous things were with our troops. These 15,000 troops that got sent over to Cuba, they were just like everybody wanted to be one of those 15,000 troops to get sent to Cuba, which they'll learn that was a really stupid idea later. But they really wanted to go.
Well, I mean, which is everybody who ever got eager to go to war found out.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, so they really wanted to go, and so the Rough Riders really wanted to go. So they had to they're cavalry, Johnny, but they had to get rid of their horses because there wasn't enough room on the boats.
Do you think
So
they
this is
pretended anyway?
so yeah. So this isn't a brave. They have the coconuts from Monty Python.
To follow behind.
As they're running up the hill, they got a guy behind them hitting the coconut. So you got Teddy Roosevelt without a horse, with a saber, charging up a hill. They fight bravely. They fight valiantly. They secure that hill at the top of San Juan Hill. They get all the way up there. They push the Spanish off to find that the Buffalo Soldiers, led by Blackjack Pershing, has already taken the hill.
Oh.
So the African American the Buffalo Soldiers, they're already there. They already took it. Like, hey guys,
like, oh, hey, hi. When was wondering where you guys were. We've been here for a while.
You're a little. And if you can't tell about American racism, the white guy, because this is a time where we don't integrate soldiers, and black soldiers can't lead black soldiers, like can't be a commissioned officer. So we hire this white dude, Pershing, who becomes the famous. He's actually one of my favorite generals of our time because he's really pretty smart. He's the head of the World War I U.S. soldiers.
Okay.
They nickname him Blackjack, which, by the way, in his defense, he hated that nickname.
I mean, yeah, but for the time, it's not a bad nickname.
No, but he's Blackjack because he's now black because he's leading the black soldiers.
Yeah, no, I get the racist now. I get the racist implications of the nickname, just as a looking at it from an outside view, just face value.
I do expect his statue in Washington D.C. to be torn down at some point because of the nickname Blackjack, but whatever. John Pershing, he's leading it. And Teddy Roosevelt, he's a glory hog. He gets up there and he goes, "Hey, cool. Hey, Pershing, congratulations. You got up here hey, can you do me a favor? Can you take a picture of me and my guys here on the hill on top in front of American flag?
Quick selfie.
Quick selfie. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay, cool." And the next day, newspapers all over the United States tout Teddy Roosevelt for taking San Juan Hill. And when you get taught history, you get taught that Teddy Roosevelt took San Juan Hill. No, he didn't. It was Blackjack Pershing and the Buffalo Soldiers.
This is the midnight ride of
Paul Revere.
Yeah, who rode like 20 of the miles or something, and then Israel Bissell did the actual long haul
of it. Yeah,
but no one remembers Israel Bissell because he doesn't have a cool name like Paul Revere.
They don't.
Sounds like a vacuum cleaner.
The Spanish do inflict almost twice as many casualties as the Americans as the Americans did to them. So
okay.
Once again, if you're defending a position, it's a hell of a lot easier than if you go off and fight it.
Yep.
So on July 3rd, the largest naval battle of the war takes place at Santiago de Cuba. The American fleet, once again, obliterates the Spanish fleet. And by obliterate, Johnny, I mean decimate. This isn't even close. This is like the dream team from our back when Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and all them were on the U.S. Dream Team.
When we retook over the Olympics.
Games, it's any of the games that they played at the Olympics, decimate level. The U.S. military or the U.S. Navy at that battle had 4 battleships, 2 armored cruisers, and 2 armed yachts, which I imagine are just a couple of rich dudes with a couple of pistols on board going, "We're helping."
Yeah. They're like, "Hey, we put metal in ours too. Check it out. I want to be a part of this."
The Spanish fleet was 4 armored cruisers, 2 destroyers, and the Americans, Johnny, can you guess their casualties?
It better be less than 9.
2 guys.
2. Oh.
1 wounded, 1 killed. And it's the yacht guys. You know it was the yacht guys.
And it was probably self-inflicted.
Probably. The Spanish lost 494.
Ooh.
1,889 were captured. 4 cruisers sunk. 2 destroyers sunk. Ouch, you lost your entire fleet.
That's lopsided.
The Caribbean. That's lopsided.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good news is though they made some new reefs in the area.
They sure did. Yeah, they sure did. Now you might be sitting there thinking, I said that the war in the Philippines was already over, but the Spanish sent a fleet to the Philippines, right? Well, Johnny, once that fleet heard about this loss on July 3rd, they're like,
turn it around.
Go back. Spain is undefended. The Americans can come over and screw our shit up
Yeah,
and
what's
attack
that? What's
Spain.
the water skiing symbol for when you're ready to go home? You just pat your head or something, or wave your finger around. That's what they were
So
doing.
they turn that fleet around and they sail right the back home. America would then go on to invade Puerto Rico on May 12th, which again is another colony in the Caribbean that Spain owns.
So we're like, hey, this is pretty easy. We're just gonna go start taking
We're
them
gonna
all.
keep anything that Spain has. Land grab.
It's mine's now.
Good old fashioned American land grab. Similarly with Puerto Rico, it was kind of the same thing that happened in Cuba. The land forces were really well defended. We weren't making a shit ton of progress, but at this point, the Spanish know, yeah, all of our fleet's at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
We have no way to get new troops, new equipment, nothing to the Spanish that are in our colonies.
Yeah, they're just sitting there bleeding.
Although they are defending well, it's only a matter of time before they run out of supplies and they're screwed.
Yeah, it's zombies coming at your house door. You can barricade it all you want, but eventually
they're going to get
they're going to get in, or you're going to have to get out because you have no supplies.
But Johnny, this is where I said that the soldiers that wanted to go might not have wanted to go because by August 7th, much of the U.S. forces in Cuba had begun to withdraw because 75% of them were out of action due to yellow fever.
Ooh. All those pesky little diseases they have down in the Caribbean countries.
To make matters worse, if you weren't down by yellow fever, you were down by the rotted, spoiled tinned meat that you were given in your rations.
Well, at least you could eat their food that they had and not be completely...
Yeah. Ugh. But don't worry, Johnny. You know what we did do? We left the Buffalo Soldiers there because white people thought that brown people were immune to the disease.
Yeah, I mean, you'll fit. Yeah, they'll fit right in there. They'll be fine.
So yeah,
they're just like, you'll love it here, guys.
And they thought that they were immune because of their African heritage, and also because most of the volunteers that were Buffalo Soldiers came from the South, because that's where most of our slaves were.
That old thing.
That old thing that we fought about a couple years prior. Well, Johnny, they weren't immune. And they got sick too. No. It's weird, right?
Shoot.
So
it's almost like there really isn't a difference between us and them.
By early August, though, Spain had decided that they had enough of this crap, and they sued for peace. And hostilities were halted on August 12th, 1898. Now, in this whole suit for peace process, I have to point out that when war was declared, we find out afterwards, through some research and some historical documents and stuff, that Spain, before they even declared war on the United States, knew right off the bat that they had a 0% chance of winning. They knew that their Navy was horribly ill-equipped. They knew that the American Navy was just going to walk all over them. But damn it, Johnny, we can't go down without a fight. We can't lose our empire without at least trying.
Yeah, you have to at least let several hundred or thousand people die first, right?
Right? This whole damn war, the whole thing boils down to nothing more than Spanish pride of, well, we can't just let the Americans get away with it. We gotta at least try to fight.
Yeah, and see, this is why if women ruled the world, like, we wouldn't have wars like this, because this was nothing but a pissing
like, no,
contest.
they're gonna win. Why would we try that? Why would we try this?
Like, this seems silly. How about we not let all those people die? We'll just back out. Sorry, guys.
These peace negotiations would last for 2 months, where representatives from Cuba, the whole point that we went in as Americans, we went into the war because we wanted Cuban independence.
That's right.
Spain sues for peace with us on August 12th. And during the 2-month negotiations, we tell Cuba, now you're not allowed at the table. Go sit at the children's table. This has nothing to do with you.
Cuba, the grown-ups are talking.
We'll keep your interest at art. Go sit in the corner.
You don't need to be a part of the negotiations, you sweet, nutrient and resource-rich island nation.
Well, Johnny, on December 10th, 1898, the Treaty of Paris is signed, which, by the way, can we sign treaties somewhere besides Paris? Every damn peace treaty is in Paris. Like, stop it.
I
Stop
mean,
it.
and yeah, and that again leads to confusion because what the hell did Paris have to do with this?
Nothing. It's just where we went. It's a neutral place.
Well, okay,
But
so
which is bullshit because
which
that's
is
not
fine.
halfway. That's way more convenient for Spain to go to Paris than it
All
is
right,
for
well,
us to go
all
to
right.
Paris.
Somebody always has to compromise, Tom, on distance. You know that. But here's the thing:
But we won.
they don't have to
We
call
won.
it the Treaty of Paris just because it was signed in Paris.
Call it Treaty
Get
of
an appropriate
USA kicked the shit out of Spain.
Yeah, get
Sort
an
of.
appropriate name. Like what the
Well, Johnny, at that peace treaty, it is signed. It is ratified by the U.S. Senate on February 6th, 1899. The war is officially over. And you might be asking yourself, what happened to the war? What was the negotiation? What was the peace, right? Well, the United States would get Spanish colonies of the Philippines, Guam, and Puerto Rico.
boom.
Boom, they're ours. Which, by the way, they're still there. They're still ours. And they're not a state. They're just kind of
They're
there.
ours. That's just it's our treasures that we collected and then put in the closet.
And exploit for resources.
And then like people come over and
we
they're like,
let
hey,
them
didn't you
claim we let them claim that they're Americans, but we don't give them a vote? Yeah.
Yeah, people come over to your house and they're like, oh yeah, hey, didn't you used to have these things? They're like, oh no, I still have them. I just keep them over there now. You don't put them out with all your nice things? No. We just put them in the drawer.
There's a lot of brown people over there, and we don't like that. And
I mean,
in the United States,
sweet sugar cane though.
Sweet sugar cane. And they do have, well, there's some good, cigars over there too. Well, Cuba, you might be wondering yourself, well, what happened to Cuba? Cuba, Johnny, they get the
that might
honor.
be a story for another day.
Well, yeah,
or we'll keep it short.
At this time, they get the honor, Johnny, of being a U.S. protectorate, which means that you are independent, but we're watching over you.
So basically, if anybody comes, we can use you as a base for our military and our naval fleet. And
so no foreign power can have a base on your lands, except for us.
Right, because we're not a foreign power like you're ours.
Yeah, you're going to lease a military base to us.
Okay.
Indefinitely. Hence Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, which is still sitting there in Cuba as ours because, well, we kept it. And we were their protectorate all the way up until 1902 when finally we're like, all right, you guys can be independent, which then sort of worked out really well for them with the whole communist thing. But that's beside the point.
That's what happens when you let small countries become independent, Tommy. They can't handle it. It's like sending your 15-year-old off to live alone. It's like they might make it work for a little while, but they're going to make a lot of bad decisions and really screw things up in the long run.
Well, so Cuba did get their independence out of the whole thing eventually, and then kind of gave it away to the Russians.
Of course.
Oh, well, it is what it is. So the aftermath of this whole battle, I got the total casualty report for you, Johnny. Casualty report. The U.S. would commit, out of those 220,000 volunteers they got, they'd commit 72,339 troops.
A lot of disappointed people that didn't get to go.
A lot of disappointed people. But a lot of those people are probably happy they didn't get yellow fever and die.
Yeah.
Like all wars, like more people die of disease than actual gunshots. But this one's really, really bad. So we had a whole total of 385 killed in action.
That's okay, out of 76,000, that's not bad.
1,662 were wounded. 11 prisoners. Somehow, I don't know what the hell those 11 dudes were doing, but
I feel like those are guys that just like went to brothels and got arrested in a bar fight or something, and now they're prisoners.
Or they're the guys that had the black powder trapdoors that are like, hold on, you're shooting at us too fast. Wait. Screw it. But 2,061 would die from disease and bad food. It is estimated that more soldiers died from tainted meat than gunshots. So
oh wow, that's
by the way, some of those rations that they were given,
that meat supplier, did they Like, were they able to stay open after this, or did they get
some of those rations were actual hardtack that was left over from the Civil War. A couple
Oh,
years earlier.
yeah,
It's still good.
yeah. What 50
Brush the
years?
maggots off.
50 years earlier, right?
40, yeah.
40 years old.
This it goes.
It keeps. It's fine.
Brush off the maggots, Johnny. It's fine. It's okay. They would lose one cargo ship and a damaged cruiser, so not too shabby. We did pretty good. Spain would have 206,000 troops engaged, so they have 3 times as many people.
Yeah,
and we still won, which
and
again is testament to
they were defending.
And they were defending, so you guys screwed the pooch.
I mean, we just scared them with our naval.
Yeah,
fleets,
that was
right?
how many troops. Yeah.
Once we destroyed that, and they realized, oh, we can't bring in ships to resupply.
That's really where it boils down to. When the Spanish Navy was at the bottom of the sea, the war was over because Spain couldn't do anything about it. How do you resupply them? What do you do?
You can't send.
They're gonna run out of bullets.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Send another one of your crappy ships in to go get sunk?
And there's no room for ammunition factories because we've got the sugar going on.
Right. Yeah.
They would have another 55,000 in the Philippines. They would lose between 700 and 800 killed, 700 to 800 wounded, 40,000 prisoners.
A lot of prisoners.
Which probably just became U.S. citizens a little bit later.
Yeah,
15,000 diseases that would die from disease. So they also were just decimated.
So
with
just
disease.
A bad time for the yellow fever to make a run through Cuba.
Yeah, pretty much. They lost 6 small ships, 11 cruisers, and 2 destroyers. So basically their entire fleet that wasn't Spanish defending fleet. So,
right.
Ouch. Military rations obviously were overhauled after this war because, well,
it turns out they were bad.
Oops. And there's a lot of food and drug administration stuff that gets developed from this time because, well, apparently if you don't, botulism is a thing.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, not a single stop along the route of taking the rations and delivering to the troops in Idiom do they think to have a quality control person open up a tin and smell it or taste it and then decide maybe not.
Maybe not. The U.S. military would reevaluate their arms, which would lead to what's called the Dick Act of 1903. Yes, that's right, Dick Act, because basically, fuck states' rights. This shit is out of hand. I cannot supply an army with 20 different guns. I mean, they had trapdoors, they had Krags, they had lever action Winchesters, they had all kinds of shotguns. They had just shit that was like, ugh.
Like what happens when you just get a ragtag militia together.
Yeah, if you're in the military, you get issued a standard set of equipment and a standard set of guns. No more bringing shit from home. Yeah. Don't do that. Yeah. Our shit.
Leave that at home. You can play with it when you're done in the military if you make it.
So, Johnny, this is one of the only wars in history where the better equipped military lost.
Yeah.
And the winning army decided, hey, the winner's equipment is really pretty good. We're going to go ahead and adopt it.
We'll take that.
Because
so what did we take? That became part of the standard issue?
So right after the Spanish-American War, in 1903, what we initially say, this gun, the Krag, it's not as good as a Mauser. So we took the 1893 Spanish Mauser and we flat out copied it, and we made it the 1903 Springfield, at which point the German Mauser Obendorf company decided, yeah, you can't do that, and they sued us, and we wound up paying some royalties on said gun until World War I broke out, and we said, nah, we're done.
We're not going to do that anymore. Now that we have a real war, we're just going to keep us
pay it because you're our enemy.
Yeah.
So yeah, we flat out stole the rifle. The Maxim machine gun.
Do you have a Springfield? I've heard that a lot.
Well, yes, but Springfield is not Springfield now, but Springfield then was one of the largest arsenals in the United States and was one of the arsenals that produced the firearms for the United States.
Okay.
So this is a Springfield Krag.
Okay.
The Springfield 1903, the Springfield rifle that I have, the 1855 Springfield.
That's the one I think I was thinking
of.
of.
Yeah, that's the one that normally hangs up there.
Yep, gotcha.
Yep. Yep. We also would adopt the maximum machine gun in, I believe, 1906, which is what the machine gun was. The Spanish were using then. Although we ditch it real quick. Like, anyways, that's another that's a historic gun sight episode.
Machine gun technology took a leap, probably, right?
Yeah, our infantry equipment took a leap, although we didn't really learn anything from it because at the start of World War One, we still didn't have enough machine guns, we still didn't have enough personnel, and we still wound up having, like, Pershing had to build an entire army overnight to go fight in Europe.
Well, but at least he was able to outfit them with uniform equipment thanks to the Dick Act, right?
That's a whole, like, we got to do a bio episode on Pershing because in 1917 is when we declared war against Germany. And at that time, I think we had something like 50,000 troops total.
Oh, geez.
By the end of the war in 1918, in November of 1918, we had 2 million man army in Europe.
And that's without a draft, right? Or
no, there was a draft.
They had a draft in World War I. Okay,
but still, it's impressive that we built that from nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Including the weapons and equipment to supply them. Eventually, they got it all. I mean, at start they were kind of limited, but by the end of 1918, they had American equipment.
They had the Rosie the Riveter type.
They have
doing their
There's
thing.
pre-Rosie the Riveter, but this is
but that type is.
But yes, exactly.
She wasn't the first one to do something.
So, on the last little note here, Johnny, I got is that this, like I said at the beginning, this officially ends the Spanish Empire. They now their colonies are gone.
Yeah,
and it begins the American Empire. We got them, and it kind of stalls there because we really don't ever gain that many more territories after this whole thing.
Well, I think it kind of turned out that once people like had mass communication and were able to kind of see what was going on, like they kind of decided maybe going and conquering people wasn't okay. And so that whole, we're just going to go take lands and do our thing went by the wayside a little bit.
Well, except in Africa, but that's a different story.
I mean, who
the
pays
one
attention
thing,
to that comment?
The one thing the Americans didn't do, we never invaded Africa. We didn't take over any colonies in Africa. We are clear from that atrocities over there.
Oh,
not us.
Well, thank goodness for that.
We just exploited other issues in Africa.
I don't think, I'm not familiar with anything that we did with Africa. We'll have to maybe we can cover that sometime.
Maybe.
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about NASCAR.
NASCAR, they're going left.